Right, so it is day 186 on my attempt to plant a tree every day for 2023, and I thought that, what with yesterday having been the hottest day in recorded history of Earth, I have to say that there are definitely hotter days in prehistory because there were times when there was a lot heating the atmosphere, even once there was multicellular life, but you know, as it's atypically tropical in the northern hemisphere right now, I thought I would plant something that is somewhat tropical, and as far as I know, from the northern hemisphere. So this is from Singapore. This is the Bauhinia variegata, which I had planted a couple of before. I wasn't really expecting to be planting any at this time of year, but then even here in the southern hemisphere, where currently it is winter, it is unseasonably warm, even if it is colder than I'd like. And I'd initially thought I'd plant this where I planted an avocado that had been taken off the list a while ago, but I'm really not convinced that little avocado is dead. It was very firmly attached to the ground when I gave it a little tug today, so I am going to plant it near that. So this is quite a good tree because although it can get quite large in itself, it is quite a good, easy one to keep small. It really tolerates pruning quite well, especially when it's young, so you can keep it as a sort of medium small sized tree and it will get along well with other trees. It's quite happy in quite a lot of shade. It's also very happy being in full sun and shading other things, and it's not too dense and heavy a shade if it's pruned. It can get quite dense if you don't prune it because it does tend to form a sort of almost conifer shape, sort of upright tree, which can be quite dense, but it prunes very well. So I'm quite happy to add it to an area that is going to be dense in theory, and then it can be kept low if necessary or allowed to get high if not. So this is going to be going in actually with a piece of the Dracaena from the same day as that avocado was cut, because the other avocado, which is doing fine still, had a forked piece of Dracaena, and seeing as that had been sort of knocked over when some mole rats tunneled in the area, I thought I would cut off the lower fork so it becomes a little bit more of an upright plant. As well as that, it does also have its own companion plants in the form of some amaranthus that have grown in there. These will be a good sort of source of food for the birds when they go to seed. They are going to seed currently, and also their leaves can be eaten as a vegetable. It's a little bit like a slightly over-flavoured spinach, in my opinion. But then we're also going to be putting in some pieces of Kalanchoe longiflora and a piece of Bauhnia longotuber, which had been crowding out one of my little cactuses where they were in a sort of mixed planting. And then I thought I would add a piece of Agave attenuata because the mole rats had dug up some of that, and this still has some nice roots attached to it, so it should be pretty good at taking in here. And then we will have a nice toxic succulent thicket around the base of this, keeping it nice and cool so it can carry on growing and so it doesn't dry out too much. These are a very hardy tree, so I'm really not worried about shading it, which is why I'm using a much taller Dracaena than I usually use at this time of year. That, and I had access to one because most of the tall Dracaena's stalks I've already used, but this one really doesn't need the shade. It's already quite a sun-hardened little seedling, and yeah, they have been pretty solid so far when planted from pot rather than planted, dug up and transferred. And that should be everything for today, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it, and if you hadn't enjoyed it, thank you for watching anyway. Please tune in again tomorrow. I will be planting something else. I have absolutely no idea what, so we can find out together.